Alright, so I'm showing you how to bring a sketch into Photoshop if you don't have access to a scanner. I normally use a scanner because I have one that's available to me and it's easier to keep the aspect ratio correct. So what I wanted to show you is I purposely took a kind of bad photograph, not terrible, but one that was clearly not, as you can see, right, the lines are skewed. So a couple of things. One is I never want to work directly on the images I brought it in, because if I go to image size, you'll see it's 42 by 56 at 72 ppi. Okay. What I did do to help me with this is I drew a box around my image that's 9 inches tall by 8 inches wide. Okay. And the reason why I did this is because when I unskew my image, I can now use this box as my reference to unskew it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new document. I want to make it fairly large. I'd rather make it large and then scale it down at the end. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to make, pick inches, 300 ppi. I think I will make it 16 by 18. And I'm going to create that. Okay. I'm going to come back to my photo. I'm going to select everything by hitting Command or Control A, and then I'm going to copy it. You can also do that by Edit, Select, okay, Edit, Copy, okay, and now I'm going to paste it in. All right, so essentially what I need to do is I need to bring these corners up to the corners here and down to the corners here. So I'm going to hit Command T to enter transform. I'm just going to go ahead and scale it first. In this case, I'm not super worried about scaling it up because this is just going to be my reference. I will not keep these lines in the finished piece, so that's not a huge, big old deal. Okay. I'm going to pull it a little bit further up this way. All right, so what I'm trying to do is keep all of these corners inside. So slightly smaller. Okay. So you see all four corners are on the inside now. Hit return. So I'm close to the size that I need, but what I need to do is obviously skew this line and unskew these lines. Okay. This is a little bit easier if you crop it. So I'm just going to hit C for crop. Okay. It will automatically go to, and let me tell you the reason why. Okay. Let me step back a second. If I hit Command T here, you notice how it still goes to the complete extent of the document, even outside of the bounds that you see on your artboard. It makes it a little bit harder. All I'm going to do is hit crop, C, it will automatically clip to the edges of my artboard, hit return. Okay, and you'll notice, right, you can see the outside now of what I'm cropping. I'm going to go ahead and crop that. All right. Now cropping we usually save for the very end because it is a destructive editing practice. In this case, again, I'm only using this for reference, so it doesn't matter. Command T, now it's a lot easier to get in, right? I'm going to hold Command or Control, and all I'm going to do is pull these corners till they line up with the four corners of my artboard here. And there we go. I have unskewed my image. Hit return. All right, now it all lines up. Now the next thing I want to do, if I want to put the lines on the layer by themselves, okay, which I do want to do, I also want to fix a few things. All right, so the easiest way to do this is, in all honesty, you don't need any color. Okay, so now I don't want to change the mode to grayscale because I will be coloring on this eventually. One thing that I can do is my image adjustments desaturate. It is Command or Control Shift U. If I do that, it makes it a perfectly grayscale one, so I don't have to worry about the yellow that was coming in from the window. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to clean this up a little bit. So image adjustment levels, or Command L, okay, gives you an histogram, sorry, that's a completely different thing. It tells you where your value information is, your input levels. Here are your darks, your midtones, and your lights. So I'm going to pull the lights to the left, and that's going to clean up some of the junk. Okay, and I'm going to pull the darks to the right to try and maintain. What I'm looking for is I want a balance of, I still want my line work, okay, but I don't want a lot of this junk. Okay, it looks pretty decent. I'm going to hit OK. Now you'll notice there's still some information here that's going to end up on my image. Okay, there are a couple different things you can do. One is you can take your brush. Okay, let me set it to hard round and set the foreground color to white. Okay, and you'll notice, right, and I did this on purpose, I'm nowhere near light enough. Okay, so that's good to know, right? This is how you can tell. So I'm going to hit Command L again. Okay. Right about there is where I can still have my line work, okay, but it's cleaned up quite a bit. And now I just have a little bit of stuff to clean up. Okay. So I'm not going to clean it all up because it'll take me a few minutes. All right, and this video is already going to get long enough without that. Okay. But what I do want to do now is I want to separate out the line from the background. Okay. And what I mean by that, I want the line to be able to sit so I can see the background through it. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this in Photoshop. You could change the layer blending mode here to multiply, okay, and then paint on top. But in each layer you have to hit multiply, and that's really not your best option. Let me just leave it at that. Okay. What I am going to do is I'm going to go into my channels. Okay. Now your channels are how your color is broken up, and you'll notice since we desaturated it, all of your channels are the same. Okay. So if I had color on here, like I could view just the red by turning off the other channels, okay, or I could view just the green. But in this case, it's desaturated. Doesn't matter. Down at the bottom, I'm going to click on this dotted circle, and then it's load my channels as a selection. Photoshop will select all of the information here. Okay. All I have to do now is go back out and hit delete. Okay. And oops, that's because I didn't want to make sure I'm on RGB. Sorry. And hit delete. Okay. And now if I turn off my background, you'll see, and I'm going to deselect, I now have this on a transparent background. So if I turn my background on and I grab a brush, when I paint, you can still see the lines over top. Now you notice the lines look terrible. We're going to fix that. Okay. What you want to do is lock your transparent pixels. All right, so whenever you select a layer, up here you have your lock options. For now, just pick the checkerboard. What this means is that you can't add any information than what already exists there. But now you can also color your line work. So let's say I want to make that line work green. Let's say I was going to keep it. Okay, I'm just going to make my brush big, brush in. Okay, it colors it all green. In this case, I'm just using it for a reference. So I'm just going to brush over it with 100% black. You could fill it too, it doesn't matter. Okay. And now you notice when I color, you can see the lines a whole lot better. Okay. The last thing I will tell you, like again, you'll see how it carried over some of this information. Like if I go here on the background and color in this table, right? You can still see a very slight texture there. So if that bothers you, clean that up on your line work. Okay. Again, I'm only using this as a reference. It doesn't matter to me. Now I will tell you the last thing that I do when I set up my layers. Okay, when I bring anything in, when you draw, you have a tendency to skew things, right? And I did this on purpose. I already know it's skewed. It's a really good idea to take your layer, okay, sorry, and go to Edit, Transform, okay, and flip it horizontal. And you'll notice immediately how skewed it looks, okay? That's because, again, like you're sitting down to draw, you tend to skew one direction or the other. So what I would do, if I was taking this to completion, is I would go ahead and pull some guides out. Okay. And then on my line work, I can just use like my polygonal lasso or my regular lasso tool to select areas. Okay. use my move tool, and now I can move, right? I can transform and rotate if I want little areas and kind of bring everything back so it doesn't look quite as bad. Okay. So that is how you prep your line work for doing a digital painting in Photoshop.